Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good afternoon to everyone. How are you today?
Waalaikumsalam, sir.
How are
Fine.
you
Good,
today?
sir.
Alhamdulillah. All right. So we meet again and all right. Thank you very much for your feedback. First of all, I would like to say, or I would like to wish Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri to everyone. Okay, we're still in the not Ramadan, sorry, Aidilfitri month or Shawwal month. So we meet again for this week, week 11. Okay, and inshallah today I would like to share with you guys for the chapter 7. The title of the chapter is about international training, development, and careers. So when we talk about training, this is one of the elements or one of the activities under HR. So maybe coming soon, you work with the HR department. So this is one of the activities you must do under the HR departments. Okay. So why we must do the training? Because we want to give some the information, especially for the new staff or the newcomers, or maybe you give something like the training for those the staff not achieve the KPI. So if the staff not achieve the KPI or below the recommended KPI for the organization, so you as the HR, you must give the training for that staff to make sure they can develop something. All right, that's why training, development, and at the same time, after they know or after they got something like the information and so on, so they can build their career. So that's why international training, development, and career in one of the topic, the biggest topic actually for the IHRM for your information. All right, so in this topic, we have as usual vocabulary, and then we have the objectives, we have the introduction, and then we have the components of effective pre-departure training, and then effectiveness of pre-departure training. And then also we have the developing staff through international assignments. Okay, as we learned based on the previous chapter. And then trends in international training and development, and then re-entry and career issues. And then also we have the repatriation process. And then also we have the individual reaction to re-entry, responses by the MNE, and also designing a repatriation program. So these are we're gonna learn or we're gonna discuss in this chapter for chapter 7. Okay, for the vocabulary, okay, we have the TND or training and development, and then the human resource, and also for the NGO. So this is one of the vocabulary we're going to learn from this chapter. And the next one we have the internal hire. Okay, internal hires is normally especially during the economic downturn or during the pandemic situation and so on. So normally for the hiring something like position, normally they prefer, okay, the organization prefer for hiring from the internal. Okay, this is for say budget and so on. And then the cultural awareness training, the CCT or cross-cultural training, okay, especially if you deal with the subsidiaries country, or you want to submit one of the staff, okay, to the international level, you must give the CCT or cross-cultural training. And then field experiences, degree of expected interaction, and then cultural similarity. So this one of the vocabulary you're going to learn under this cross-cultural. And of course, if you learn already in the CCM subject or cross-cultural management subject, it will be just something like more focused in terms of the HR elements. And then the next one, we have the information giving, effective and emotion approaches, security briefing, and also we have the role playing, preliminary visit, and then international cadre, and the multinational virtual teams, repatriation or ROI or return on investment, and the reverse culture shock, okay, mentors, repatriation program, and then we have also the career anxiety, work adjustment, family adjustment, social network, and then boundaryless careers, protein careers. Also, we have the international itinerants. And then additional types of training, we have the language training, critical incident training, cultural assimilator training, stress reduction training, simulation training, and also the sensitivity training. So these are we gonna learn and we're gonna have in this chapter for chapter 7. Okay, the objectives from this chapter, before and during, Okay, so we examine these pre and on assignment issues. So we have the 7 objectives from this chapter. Number 1, the role of training to support expatriate adjustment and on assignment performance. So if you want to send any staff or 1 or 2 staff in the organization, and we can call it the expatriate, so you must give a training for them. So you must know what are the role of the training, why we must do the training for the expatriate staff. Okay, that's the first one. The second one is components of pre-departure training program, such as cultural awareness, pre-military visit, and also the language skill. So this component, we try to know what are the pre-departure training and what also the cultural awareness, preliminary visit, and also the language skills. As we know, especially if you want to deal with the expatriate or the subsidiary country, so you must give this kind of the training to our staff to make sure they not become a culture shock and so on. Okay, and then the third one is relocation assistance and training for trainers. So this is, you want to know what are the relocation assistance we have under the training part, and then what are the training for trainers, or we can call it TOT or TFT. Okay, and then the next one, we have the objectives for the effectiveness of pre-departure training. So we want to know what are the effective if we want to do for a pre-departure training. Of course, we need get something like the information for our staff to make sure if they go there or if they go for the subsidiary country, they not become a culture shock. So that's one of the effectiveness and become very important. Okay, if we want to send our staff for the international level. And then development aspect of international assignments. So this is another objective is we try to develop, we want to know what are development aspect, okay, for the international assignments. And then the second last objective is we have the training in developing international management teams. And also the last one, the last objective is from this chapter is we want to know what are the trends in international training and development. So these are the 7 what we call it, the objectives from this chapter. Okay, this is for post assignment. This one is before and during assignments, and then the objectives for post assignments or during the after assignments. We try to have 8 objectives. We examine these re-entry issues. The first one is process of re-entry or repatriation. So what are the process if we want to know or we want to give for the staff and so on to make sure that training become effective or not. And then the second one is job related issues. We want to know what are the issues after your staff go to that subsidiary country. So what are the related issues? So from here, the HR must what we call it, come up with the planning, the best planning to cater this kind of the issues. And then the third one is social factors, such as a family, okay, that affect re-entry and work adjustment. So if let's say you want to send the staff for the short term, so as we know, if we give that kind of the assignment for the short assignments or short period, okay, normally that staff can't bring together their family. They must go to by their own selves, okay, their loans and so on. So that might be affect the re-entry and work adjustment for that staff. And then the fourth one is M&E responses to repatriate consent. So you want to know what are the concern, okay, after that staff come back to the organization. So what are the response from the M&E, okay? And then the next one, staff availability and carry issues. We want to know what are the availability for that staff. Either they can go back to that become that international assignments or not, and then what are the carry issues happen after they come back to the organization. And then the next one, we have the ROI or return on investment and knowledge transfer. So after we do that kind of the assignments, so the international assignments, so what are the ROI for that organization and what are the knowledge they can bring or bring from the subsidiary country and sharing with the home country. Okay, and then the second last objective is for post assignment is designing. Okay, design a repatriation program. Okay, sometime after we got the feedback from that staff, so the HR can design what are the best program to do the repatriation. And the last one, broader international carry issues. So from here, after we got the feedback from that staff, after they do the international assignments, normally we can, what we call it, broader the international carry issue. We know what are the issues, especially during the pandemic situation, or maybe during this kind of the COVID-19 issues and so on. So after that, the HR can know what are the carry issues, what we call it, facing by the staff in that organization. Okay, so that's are the objectives for post assignments. All right, for the introduction, international assignments as a training and development tools. So if we look at from here, the first tools we can have the expatriate art trainer. So that staff, after they do the international assignments, normally they become a trainer. Okay, they can share the situation, okay, the problem, the issues happening or they are facing it during the international assignment and so on. So they become one of the trainer for that organization. And then under the expatriate trainer, part of knowledge and competence transfer, and then expected to help train and develop HCN or home country nationals. Okay, that's the first one. The second tools or development tools for the international assignment is expatriate ensure adoption. Okay, so when we talk about adoption, normally we have something like the system, something like mentor and mentee, for example, and then they can sharing something, show how system and process work, and then monitor HCN performance or home country national performance. Okay, that is the second development tools. And then the third one is expatriate management under development. Okay, so this part, job rotation. Okay, job rotation become a broader perspective, and then they become global operator because they have learned from the different country, okay, different the what we call it the problem happening for the different subsidiaries country and so on. So from here, they become a global operators. Okay, so far so good, guys. Are you still with me?
Good, sir.
So far so good, eh? Thank you, Razi, for your
Good, sir.
response. All right, good. Thank you very much for your response. So next, we have the international training and development. So if you look at from here, this is the graph. Okay, we can look from the recruitment and selection. So we recruit the staff, the best staff, okay, to become the international assignment, to send it for the international level by doing based on their performance, okay, based on their KPI, based on their what we call it knowledge, okay, experience and so on. And then we give them training, and then from the training, if let's say after the training they can have or they can learn something, so we must have the pre-departure training. Okay, we look at from here, and then after they do have the training and then they learn something, and then they may develop something or become a development. So regarding the pre-departure training, after they learn something, the new one and so on, so they become the international assignments. So of course, from here also they become a development for that staff, and then they become the international team, if you look at from here. So or either from the recruitment and selection, they just become the international assignments because they have the experience and so on. They don't need to have the training and so on. So they have the two ways, okay, become the international teams for that international training and development for your information. Okay. The next one, we have the availability of cross-cultural training in M&Es. Okay, for the multinational enterprises, we have, if you look at from here, this data is obsolete already, 2002 and 2004. But they just give the example, okay, during 2002 and 2004 regarding the availability about the CCT or cross-cultural training. So for the CCT available, okay, for during 2002, 64%, and then during 2004, 62%, the minus 2%. And then CCT attendance optional provided to for during 2002 around 76%, and then during 2004 74%, so minus 2 also. And then employee only, okay, just for the employee only 2% during 2002, and in 2004 5%. And then employee and spouse together with their spouse together during 2002 29, and then 2004 27% only. And the whole family, okay, bring together with their kids and so on. So during 2002, 33, and then during 2004, 28, and then none, okay, no any CCT optional provided during 2002, 36, and then to 2004, 40. So if you look at from here, from the trend, 2004, 2002, so their percentage become lower. Okay, this is because maybe they can't catch up with the environment of the international environment, or maybe they become a something like problem. Okay, if let's say they can't bring together with their family. Okay, and then maybe after they go to that country, they become a culture shock and so on. So this is happened during 2002 and 2004. So depend, sometimes they become currently increase or maybe decrease, depend on the situation. So depend on the staff also. If they have become a good independently and so on so far, they become a good staff if they can go for the international assignments. All right. And then the next one, we have the components of effective pre-departure training. Okay, so what are the components of effective pre-departure training? So if you look at from here, essential components of pre-departure training. So before you send the staff for the international level or international assignments, so these are the training we must do for that staff. The first one is cultural awareness training. So we must give the training, especially for the cultural. Okay, what are the do and don'ts about that culture and so on, to make sure they not become a culture shock. Okay, this is very important. And then the next one, we must give the training for the internet for that staff for the preliminary visit. Okay, we give something like for 1 day or maybe 1 week. Okay, preliminary visit for that staff to make sure they can have something like the exposure about that country, culture and so on. And then language instruction, especially for that country, they not use the English, or maybe that country not they use the first or second language, English language for that country. So you must use their language, for example. So you must give the language instruction to make sure that staff can speak maybe basic one, or maybe just 40 or 30% just the language for that country. Okay. And then the assistant with practical day-to-day matters. Okay, you must have give the assistant for that staff to make sure they can have something like if they have any problem and so on, so they can asking or maybe discuss with that assistance. And then the security briefing. Okay, especially for that country, if they have any cases or any something like terrorist cases and so on, so you must give the security briefing for that staff to make sure they can aware if they can go for that country. Okay, so these are the pre-departure training you must give for that staff to make sure they not become culture shock. Okay, so far so good. You say I'm going too fast?
Good, sir.
Good, yeah. All right. So I move to the next slide, slide number 12. Black and Mendenhall, 3 keys for cross-culture training. So these are the, what we call it, the research doing by the Black and Mendenhall. They come up with the 3 keys for the cross-culture training. So under the cross-culture training, they come out with the 3 things. The first one is training methods. So what are the methods we must give the training for that staff? That's the first one. We must the HR must know. Okay, so the HR must what we call it conduct. What kind of that training we must give to that staff? That's the first one. The second one is level of training rigor. Okay, so what are the level of the training? If let's say that staff they have the experience already, so maybe the level is not really basic one. Maybe just focus for the advanced and so on. So depends on that things. And then the third one is duration of training. So if let's say that staff go for that international assignment for 2 years or 5 years, for example, of course the training must have at least 1 month, not only 1 day. Okay, if let's say that staff go for the international assignment just for short term, okay, just for 5 months or maybe 2 months or 3 months, something like that. So maybe the training just 1 day or 2 days, depends. Okay, so that's become regarding the duration of training. So relative to expected degree of interaction, and then cultural novelty, how different host culture is from native culture. Okay, so So these are the what we call it, the duration of training suggested for the HR do for their staff. Okay, low interaction or similar culture. For example, Malaysia and Indonesia, we have a similar culture. So that training just enough for below 1 week. Okay, so not more than 1 week, just enough. Emphasize information giving approach, the area of cultural briefing, and then the lecturer or movie or books. Okay, movie we can look at from the YouTube, for example, or any videos to show them about that culture, about that country culture. And then we also have the interpreter, okay, and also the survival level language training. Okay, maybe for us easy to understand about the Indonesian language, for example, but maybe in certain words, okay, might be a different, who maybe have a different definition and so on. Okay, so that's for the low interaction or similar culture, just enough below than 1 week training. Okay, the next one, for 2 until 12 months or 1 year job or some interaction means a short term, still until the short term. So more training rigor for 1 to 4 or plus week longs. Okay, so just one month enough. Okay, or maybe 1 month plus weeks for that training, do the training and so on. That's enough. Okay. So what are the emphasizes effective approach we must do under this kind of that interaction or training? Role playing. Okay, role playing means they must learn something and then they must show to the mentor about what they are really understand. Okay, that's we call it for the role playing. And then for the critical incident. Okay, what are the incident being critical in that country? You must tell them. And then cultural assimilator training. So we must give the training about the real culture for that country. And then case study, okay, case study, if let's say any problem facing in that situation, so how to handle this kind of the problems. Okay, that's we call it for the case studies. And then stress reduction training. So this is another things you might very important, especially for that staff to send that staff for the international assignments, because 1 year, okay, 1 year is quite a long time, a long term, okay, for that staff to go to that country. So we must give them the training how to stress reduction or how to solve any stress, okay, for that the certain situation and so on. And then the last one, of course, the moderate language training. So this is another thing is very important, especially for that country not use the English. Okay, so you must learn the language about that country to make sure you can communicate well with that staff in that country. Okay, so far so good. Any question?
Okay, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Nurfaratila. Okay, next, for the high interaction. Okay, high interaction on novel culture. So means here you must do the training, more training rigor, at least 2 months, 2+ months long. Okay, so this is because this is for the long term. Okay, long term international assignments, especially you must emphasize the immersion approach. Okay, for the assessment center. And then field experiences, you must sharing something, what are the experiences happen or facing during the international assignments. And then you must have the simulation, sensitivity training. Okay, you must learn about the sensitivity about that culture for that country. You must tell them what are the sensitivity in terms of the color, in terms of the food, in terms of the fashion and so on. Okay, this is regarding the sensitivity. And then intercultural web-based workshop, we have the workshop. Workshop means something like we have something like the real situation. Okay, if that case, this is for the intercultural, especially because normally if you go for the long term, you must blend together with a different culture. So we must have the web-based workshop to give them something like the situation, the real situation if they go for that country. And then the last one is extensive language training. Okay, this is because of you must use at least 80% their language. So you must get the extensive language training. That's why you must have the training at least 2 months. Okay, 2 months and plus. Okay, for that training, especially if they can learn about the language. All right. So far, so good. Guys?
Yes, sir.
So far, so good, eh? All right, good. Next, we have the effective of pre-departure training. So why we must do the pre-departure training? What are the effectiveness? If you look at from here, perceived value of cross-cultural preparation of expatriates. Okay, a value rating of great value. Okay, for during 2002, 35%, and then 2004, around 36%. Okay, of high value. Okay, 45% during 2002 and 2004, around 37%. And then of medium value, 17% during 2002, and then during 2004, around 21%. And then of little value, not available during 2002, and then during 2004, 6%. So if you look at from here, great value more highest, high value more highest rather than other rating. So means here the pre-departure is very important to give to the staff, especially if that organization trying to send that staff become the international assignments. Okay, because they can learn something, okay, from that training. And then developing staff through international assignments. So how we want to develop the staff? Okay, outcomes of international assignments, we have the two things, management development and organizational development. For management development, individual get experience, advanced career. Okay, they can get experience if they go for the international assignments or international country and so on. So they can gain the experience, okay, experience to communicate, experience to manage, experience to do the decision making, because a different country, they have a different decision making style and so on. And then at the same time, they become the advanced career for that staff. And then the M&E gets cadre of experience international operation. So means here they can have the experience for the international operation, because maybe the different country, they have a different technology, they have a different SOP and so on, so they can have the experience about that international operations. So that's for the management development, the outcomes from the for the management development. And then for the organizational development, M&E or multinational enterprises accumulate knowledge and abilities. So they can have the knowledge and abilities from that staff, and M&E and individual get a global mindset. Okay, because they learn something, that staff learns something from the different country, the different subsidiaries and so on, so they become a global mindset. And then M&E gets direct control and socialization with help with knowledge transfer, and also help transfer competence. So they can learn something from that country, and or maybe they have the experience from the different country, and then they can share with that country, with that organization about the knowledge and so on. So these are the outcomes for the organizational development after they do the international assignments. Okay, so far any question? So far so good?
Good, sir.
Yes.
Good, yeah? All right, thank you very much. Okay, next we have the network. M&E can use international team as a mechanism for fostering innovation and organizational learning and knowledge transfer, as I mentioned previously. So after you go to that international assignments, normally you may learn something, and then you have the network with the different country and so on, and at the same time you may transfer the knowledge and so on. And then a means of breaking down a functional and national boundaries, enhancing information flow. Okay, so this is another thing. you may breaking down the functional and national boundaries, okay, because we have the network, good network with them, so we can what we call it, tone down the national boundaries based on the different country and so on, okay. And then the third one is a method of for encouraging diverse decision making, problem solving, and strategic assessment. So as I mentioned previously, different country they might have a different SOP or different process and so on. So after they do the network and so on, after they do the international assignment and so on, so this kind of the method sometimes you may encourage for that they become as flexible, okay, and how to solve the problems, and at the same time how to do decision making and how to give a good strategy assessment, okay. And then the second last is an opportunity for developing a global perspective, okay, because you learn something, a different culture and so on, so you become, you might have the good opportunity to develop something, a global perspective. And then a technique for developing shared values, thus helping MNE with informal normative control through socialization, okay. So this is one of the technique we may learn after they do for the international team, for that after they do for the international assignment and so on, so they can share something to the staff, either for that international staff or for the local staff and so on. All right, so these are the best thing, okay, if you become an international teams for that organization. All right, next we have the developing international teams through international assignments. So actually, this is same like the previous slide. They just moved to something like for the graph. Okay, individual development. So after they do the training and so on, so they become the international assignments. So either they become international cadre or maybe international teams. So if they become the international cadre, they become the organizational development. They can give something for the organization. And the same goes to the international teams, either from the virtual teams, especially during this kind of the pandemic situation. Normally, all the organization prefer to use the virtual teams. And then also, they can learn something and so on. And then at the same time, they can give the organizational development. All right. Next, we have the trends in international training and development. So what are the trends? Some training and development trends. Host countries continue to pressure for local training and development. So after the training and development happen, the host country mean for this from the subsidiary country, sometimes they give some pressure for the local TND or for the home country to give some the extra training for that staff to make sure they can ready to go for that international assignments. Okay, this is another the trends happen, and in growing realization that competence learning depends on national context and HC. Okay, HC stand for host country institution. Okay, so based on the trends for the host country institution, sometimes they need something like growing realization that competence learning depends on the national context. So you as HR, you must know what are the context of training you must give for that staff to make sure update information about that country and so on. You must give the good information and the real situation for that country to make sure after that staff go to that country, they not become a culture shock. Okay. And then the third one is increasing awareness of NGO importance. Okay, this is another important things about the trends. The NGO, one of the important things, okay, for the non-government organization. They're not based on the what we call it profit, okay, but they are very important for the country. Okay, so you must have good in terms of the awareness, okay, increasing awareness about the NGO for that country, okay, because NGO is one of very important, especially for that country. All right, next we have the increasing interest in TND focus on China, okay, especially interest about the TND or training development in China, because as we know, China is one of the country right now become a big market, okay, big what we call it opportunity for do the business and so on. And then you must have good interest about that, because China is not really accepted, okay, any managers or any staff from other country. Normally they believe about their culture, about their society and so on. So that's why we must have increasing the interest, okay, training. This is one of the trends for that training, inside the training. And then the last one is T&D, or training development literature, is realizing needs to address about global, comparative, and also the national context for T&D, or training development, just as IHRM, or International Human Resource Management, is starting to do. Okay, so it means here you must give what we call it the literature about the global. What are the global talk about? And what are the comparative from country A, country B, and so on. And then at the same time, you must give the national context, okay, for T&D, because as I mentioned previously, different country, they might have different context of the training you must give to the staff. Okay, so these are the trends, okay, as HR you must know, okay, before you give any training for the staff. Okay, so far so good. Okay, are you still with me?
Good.
Okay,
So
sir.
good.
Yes,
So far, so good, sir.
So good,
Okay, sir.
Right. Okay, so far no question, yeah?
No, sir.
No question. All right, good. Thank you very much. Okay, next, re-entry and career issues. Okay, so what that's mean for the re-entry and career issues? If you look at from here, expatriation includes repatriation. Okay, so repatriation means after you come back and then you must go back to another country or be the same country. That's we call for the repatriation. Okay, if you look at from here, we have the pre-departure, during assignments, and upon return. Okay, for the pre-departure, a sponsored assignment, and then communication protocols established, web and media contacts for contacts, and then a pre-departure training and orientation. So this is during pre-departure. During the assignments, home leave, okay, so they leave from the home country, they go to the subsidiary country, and a work-related information exchange. Sometimes because of the different country, they have a different process and so on. So of course, the work-related information exchange, they change already. And an ongoing communication with sponsor, and then systematic pre-written orientation. Okay, so these are during assignments. So upon return, after they finish the international assignments, so they return back to the organization, the home country. So new assignments, okay, organizational reconnection, assistant with non-work factors, and ritual or ceremonies to share experience. Okay, so normally like that, after you come back, the company must give something like 1 or 2 days. You must share something, the experience after you go for that international level, international science. Okay, and then for the host focus and then home focus, if you look at from here, culture shock out. Okay, so if you not give any good training for that staff, normally that staff become a culture shock. But if you already mention, already share with the staff about the do and don'ts about that culture and so on, so normally culture shock out. Okay, same goes to the day after the you finish or you want to come back to the home country during after doing assignment and become a return. So culture shock back. Okay, and because they try to change, okay, from the new culture become a actual culture. That's why they become a culture shock back. And the new balance integrated global perspective. Okay, so if you look at from here, sometimes after they come back and then they must give or they must learn the different culture, especially that staff trying to send or repatriation you to another subsidiary. You must learn something, the new culture and so on. Okay. And then repatriation activities and practices. Okay, so what are the activities and practices for repatriation? So if you look at from here, as usual, we have the recruitment and selection. So the organization, the HR department must recruit and must select the best staff, okay, to do the expatriate. And then pre-departure training, we must give the training for that staff. and then on assignments, okay, during that assignments, and then a re-entry or re-assignments. So did you come back and then maybe just go back to that subsidiary country or maybe with another country? Okay, so these are the activities and practices for the repatriation. So far, so good. Guys, any questions so far?
No, sir. So far, so good.
No question, yeah? All right, good. Okay, next, repatriation process. So, 2011 study causes for international assignment failure. So sometimes because of the training is not really intensive training and so on, so they become a failure. But they study during 2011. So if you need the latest data, maybe just go to the Google and then just causes for international assignment failure during 2020. Okay, so you got the latest data. Okay, so the failure happened because of the spouse or partner dissatisfaction. So this is very high, 80%, and then poor candidate choice. So during the selection, DHR or the top management choose not the right candidate. So because of this one, they're around 60%. And then a poor job performance, okay, they not really perform after they go to the international assignments. So they have 13%, and then inability to adapt, okay, because during the local they can adapt, but if they go to the international level, they can't adapt to any new culture and so on. So these cases around 12%, and then other family concern have another 8%. So these are the causes happen normally for the international assignment failure. Okay, the most important, the most highest percentage is because of the spouse or partner dissatisfaction. So they become a failure for that international assignments, especially during short assignments. Okay, short-term assignments. And then the next one, effective of ways to reduce expatriate turnover. Okay, in most the to least effective order. So if you look at from here, opportunity to use experience around 25%. This is very high. And position choices upon return 22%. And then recognition. So after they come back, the company not really what we call it, not really recognize them, become the expatriate. So they become they just stop what we call it, they just a tender, okay, their position and so on. So that's we call it for the turnover for your information. Okay, so for the recognition around 16%, and then repatriation career support 13%, and then improved performance evaluation 9%. So sometimes after they go to that country, they don't want to come back. Okay, they want to stay at that country because they feel something like in terms of the salary, better job opportunity, or better what we call it, the environment and so on. So this happen. Okay. All right. Next, individual reaction to re-entry. So factors influencing repatriation adjustment. So if you look at from here, the factors is from the job-related factors. They have the career anxiety, loss of visibility and isolation, no post-assignment guarantee, and then workplace changes. Okay, because of the different country, they have a different process. So of course, the workplace changes. And then work adjustment, re-entry position, employment relationship, devaluing experience. Okay, and then coping with the new role demands and then loss of status and pay. So these are based on the job-related factors. They also have the social factors, family adjustment, social network effect on partner career. So from here, they become the influences repatriate adjustment. So these are the factors for the influences. They might be influenced for the repatriate adjustment, especially for the job-related factors and also for the social factors. All right. So far, so good. We have another 7 slides. So far, so good. We don't have any break. Okay, we try. Good. We try. I'm trying to finish before. Okay, before 2 p.m. I try to finish this chapter, and then I'm continue for that course, the Smart PLS courses. Okay, So next, we have the impacts of international assignments. So what are the impact for the staff by doing the international assignments? So if you look at from here, the expatriate will promote faster, and then the expatriate obtain new position in the company more easily, and expatriate change employers more often. So if you look at from here, this based on the survey for the international assignment staff, during 2011, during 2005, and 2004. So during 2011, for the expatriate were promoted faster, 33%. Okay, during 2005, 37%. Okay, quite high. And then during 2004, 34%. So means here the latest data not really give any promoted for that staff after they come back. Okay. And then the expatriate obtain new position in the company more easily. Okay, during 2011 survey, 38%, and then during 2005, 36%, and then 2004, around 35%. So if you look at from here, based on this data, the expatriate after they come back, they have good in terms of the new position. So they previously maybe the position is something like for the executive, and then after they come back, they become something like senior executive and so on. Okay, this is for the expatriate obtain new position. And then the expatriate change employer more often, means after they come back, their tender for that from that company, and then they work with another organization. Okay, so during 2011, 18% case, and then 2005, 24%, and also for the 2004, 23%. So means here during 2011, not so many cases. Okay, after they come back, they work with another organization. Okay, so normally they stay in that organization. Okay, so this is based on the career impact of the international assignments. Okay, so later on, maybe you become one of the staff to do international assignment or become the expatriate. So you must face this kind of the situation. Okay. The next one, responses by the M&A. So what are the responses by the M&A? Linking repatriation process to outcomes. So if you look at from here, repatriate experience. Okay, repatriate experience. So after they come back from that subsidiary country or become the international assignments, international staff or expatriate. So after they come back, okay, maybe the staff availability and retention, and then employment relationship, organizational commitment, and knowledge sharing, or maybe based on the management of a repatriation process. And also after that, they can have the what we call it, the affected by the value placed on international experience. So this kind of the process, if you look at from here, so they can have something like the reputation for that staff after they come back, after they do the international assignments. Okay. The next one, we have the knowledge and skill acquired from international assignments. So what are the knowledge and the skill you must have for the become an international assignments? The first one is market specific knowledge. So local system, especially in terms of the political, social, economic, or maybe PASL. Okay, language and also the customs. Okay, the custom in Bahasa we can call as what we call it adat. Okay, customs. And then personal skills, you must have this kind of the knowledge and skills, intercultural knowledge, self-confidence, flexibility, and tolerance. Especially if you go to another country, you must become a flexibility. Okay, and then job-related management skill, communication. Of course, you must you must have good communication, and then project management. Okay, and also how to solve any problems or problem solving. And the network knowledge, you must have good in terms of this one, especially during meeting diverse people, because if you go to the international level, they have a different culture, different person, and so on. So you must know how to meet with them. And then general management capacity, broader job responsibilities, exposure to other parts of the organization. So these are the skills you must have or acquired if you want to become the international assignments for that organization, for your organization coming soon. Okay. The next one, designing a repatriation program. Okay, this is for the HR. So topics covered by a repatriation program, you must include in the training, preparation, physical relocation and transition information, what the MNE will help with. And then financial and tax assistance, including benefit and tax changes, loss of overseas allowance, and the re-entry position and career path assistance, reverse culture shock, including family disorientation, and the school system and children education and adaptation, especially if they can bring together with their family. And then the workplace changes such as corporate culture, structure, and decentralization. Okay, and then the stress management, communication related training, establishing network opportunities, and also the help in forming new social contacts. So these are the topics you must cover, okay, if you want to do for the repatriation training and development. And then the last one, strategies for smooth re-entry. So to make sure this kind of the repatriation or expatriate or international assignment becomes smooth, the HR must do the pre-departure briefing on what to expect and upon training or return, and then multiple career planning session, especially after they come back, and a written repatriate agreements clarifying available assignments upon return. Okay, this is because to make sure after they come back, they still work with your organization. If not, they can have something like you may summons, okay, you may give something like penalty for that staff if they want to continue work with that organization. Okay, this is very important. And then mentoring programs that continue after return. Okay, so after they return or after they come back, they become a mentor, so they can share something with the other staff to make sure other staff they can prepare to go for the international assignments. And an extended home visit to keep up with social, family, and organizational changes, and a reorientation program on changes in organization, and a personalized financial and tax advice, providing an adjustment period upon return, and visible and concrete expression of repatriate value to the firm. Okay, so these are the strategies to make sure this kind of the repatriation or international assignment becomes smooth for their organization, especially for the part for the agreements. Okay, guys. So far, any question before I dismiss this class? Any question? Guys, are you still with me?
No, sir.
No question? Sure? Okay, if no question, okay, are you ready for your attendance?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, yes. Give me 1 minute. Yeah? Yes? Any question? No question, eh? All right. So today is 20th. 20. Okay, Ahmad Kabir Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Alia Suraya.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Amani.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ari Arisa.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Azim Firdaus. Azim Firdaus Muhammad Hashim. Last call for Azim Firdaus bin Muhammad Hashim. Absent. Next, Muhammad Ikhwan.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Muhammad Razif.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Muhammad Jumaat.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Muhammad Amirul Haziq.
Present, sir.
Thank you. Next, Muhammad Azamuddin. Muhammad Azamuddin Sohaini. Last call for Muhammad Azamuddin bin Sohaini. Next, Muhammad Haziq Zikri.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Muhammad Irfan Daniel.
Present, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Next,
sir.
okay, right. Next, Muhammad Izzat Shakirin.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Muhammad Zulfikar.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Noma Noor.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Nur Adira Yozira. Nur Adira.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Next, Nur Alia Natra. Nur Alia Natra Amir Fuad. Last call.
Yes, sir.
Natra, thank you. Next, Nur Ashika.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Present.
you. Next, Nur Faradila.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Nur Kalisha Ayu.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Nurul Fasiha.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Razman Arif.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Shazika Azrin.
Present, sir.
Thank you. The second last person, Siti Aisha Abdullah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And the last person, Xavier Isayawi.
Present, sir.
All right. Okay. So that's all for today. Thank you very much, guys, for your time. And inshallah, we meet again on next week, 27th of May. So again, Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri. And maaf zahir dan batin for everyone. Okay, guys.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Please
Selamat
take care.
Raya.
You're most welcome. Okay, so please take care. Selamat Raya. Please take care because the COVID-19 still part a lot of all the cases. Actually, yesterday around 6,000 something. So please make sure take care yourself.
You too, sir. Take care.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Amani.
Thank you, sir.
You're most welcome.
Thank you,